What's happening, guys? Shane here, and every time I make a video about college degrees, especially the bad ones, people get really triggered. But you know what's more triggering than hearing the truth? Being $300,000 in student loan debt with no job prospects. So today, I'm exposing the 10 degrees guaranteed to keep you poor forever. And I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this video, so all I ask is that you very gently tap that like button. None of that violent smashing the like button or destroying the like button. No. I don't condone that sort of violence, but just a little gentle tap will show me that you appreciate me doing this type of content. Now, by the way, before I get into this, you might be in a situation where you're like, Shane, listen, I have to get a college degree. I don't have any other choice, but I'm trying to get a good degree, but I need to get funding for it. And normal funding sources just aren't gonna do it. Well, I have a possible solution for you, which we'll talk about later on in the video. But basically, it's gonna be kind of like a quiz/calculator that will show you how you can get funded for actually good degrees for as little as 3.74% in just 3 minutes. And this is another one of those hacks that I've talked about, many other hacks on this channel. For instance, WGU, Thomas Edison State University. I've shown people how they can get degrees in as little as 6 months. And this is another one of those things that for the right situation, for the right type of person is really good. So definitely check that out down in the description, pinned comment below, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, even with help managing debt, some degrees are still super financially risky, and you might want to avoid them altogether. In fact, most people should avoid them. And these college degrees that I'm about to discuss aren't just expensive, they're financial quicksand that can keep you stuck for decades. And today we're diving into something that hits close to home. See, I used to think that any degree was worth the investment. I even racked up 6 figures in student debt getting my doctorate in pharmacy school. But here's the thing, while I managed to turn things around with remote work and YouTube, and I also went for a degree that does give a decent ROI. I mean, I was making 6 figures a year as a pharmacist. Many of my classmates are still drowning in debt years later. So today I'm going to be breaking down the college degrees that are most likely to leave you in a lifetime of debt. Not to discourage you, but to help you make smarter choices about your future. And stick around to the end because I will be sharing alternatives and ways of doing that are a lot smarter. Now listen, I know some of you are thinking, but Shane, we should follow our passions. Well, let me tell you something. You know what people are really passionate about? Being able to pay their rent, being able to live their life without stressing out all the time over money. And you know what kills passion really quickly? Living in your parents' basement at 30 because you choose feelings over finances. And when I was younger, I thought I was passionate about football and video games. But for football, I got in a truck accident. I lost my shot at athletics. And realistically speaking, I was never going to be athletic enough to actually make money from it, but maybe I would have gotten, a free college degree. And I was really passionate about video games, but I wasn't going to make money doing that. But you know what I did instead? I looked at where the opportunity was at the time. And that's how I ended up in pharmacy school. And at that time, that was a pretty good choice. But luckily for you, now there are way better choices out there. And the harsh truth is that your passion means nothing if it doesn't pay the bills. Success isn't about following your dreams blindly. It's about being smart, adaptable, and willing to pivot when opportunities present themselves. And that's exactly the reason why we're diving into this list. So with that being said, I know I'm going to trigger a lot of people. I don't mean to do it. I'm honestly doing this because I want to help people. But the first one on the list, number 10, is going to be restaurant management. So there's only about 70,000 restaurant manager jobs nationwide, and none of them care about your degree. I mean, they couldn't care less. Your 100K degree gets you access to jobs that you could have gotten by working your way up from the dishwasher position. And most of these jobs are in cities where the pay of about $58,000 a year isn't going to be very good. And by the way, when I say 100K degree, that's putting it lightly, because a lot of studies show that a college degree is really going to cost you $500,000 when you add in things like opportunity cost, interest, and the chances that you might default on it. And moving on to an anecdote, as a former restaurant manager, this Redditor shares the brutal realities of the field. And they said, I cannot tell you how happy I am to bartend and serve. You make way more money with way less stress and responsibility. Managing sucks, right? So they got a job as a bartender, which is a job that obviously you don't need a degree for. And that's after they went through all the trouble of getting a degree and becoming a restaurant manager, which was a massive headache. And one commenter chimed in, noting their boyfriend is a manager who wants to go back to serving, and he works 50+ hours a week, just like the original poster. Plus, he has too much responsibility, and his servers make more than him with a fraction of the hours. Absolutely mind-blowing. Now, Let's see what you're signing up for. Assistant restaurant managers make about $46,000 to $68,000 a year, and you get yelled at by both customers and employees. Food service managers make about $46,000 to $71,000 a year, which is kind of like professionally asking why the fish delivery is late. And kitchen managers make $41,000 to $59,000 a year, explaining to line cooks why they can't have Saturday off. So yeah, it's a headache. Next one is going to be photography. Now, there's 128,000 jobs nationwide. Many of them are saturated or hard to get into, and exactly 0 of them care at all about your degree. You're literally paying tuition to learn what millions of Instagram influencers figured out for free. There is unlimited classes, and they're really good classes, by the way, as well as YouTube channels that will teach you how to do photography. And guess where most of the photography gigs are, the ones that actually pay well? They're gonna be in super expensive cities like New York and LA, where your $37,000 starting salary won't even cover a studio apartment and ramen for your meals. So here's some career paths you might go down. Junior photographers, they make about $37,000 to $62,000 a year, which is basically a professional Instagram filter applier. Photography assistants make about $37,000 to $58,000 a year, and you get paid to carry someone else's equipment. And content creators that get hired by a company make about $38,000 to $67,000 on average, doing what every teenager with an iPhone already does. So yeah, this one is going to keep you poor. Let's move on to the next one. And this one is going to really make some people mad, and that is biology. Now, check this out. There's only about 22,000 biology degrees nationwide, and this is actually one of the most common degrees that people get. In fact, it's the #1 most common science-related degree. So you basically have 100 people fighting for a single seat. And in most of those cases, a bachelor's degree ain't gonna be enough. You're gonna have to get a master's or a doctorate just to get your foot in the door and start. And even in the cheapest state, you need $39,000 just for the basics. So good luck hitting that with these starting salaries, especially considering the fact that you're gonna be having to pay off student loans. So here's a lab coat career option, a research assistant. They make about $42,000 to $64,000 a year. Again, typically this person is gonna need a master's or a doctorate. A lab technician, about $45,000 to $63,000 a year. You get this for running the same test until you question your life choices. And again, a lot of the time they require master's degrees. And then another one is a quality control analyst. And in this one, you get paid to stare at petri dishes all day. And again, most of the time it's gonna require a master's degree or even a doctorate. Not worth it, guys. Next one is communications, and brace yourself, most of the actual jobs in communication are going to be in expensive cities as well. We're talking PR managers and that type of thing. And the funniest thing is you don't even need the degree to get started. And communications is such a general degree. It's kind of like a thinking degree or something like that. Like it's so general that it's basically useless. And of course, the average student loan debt is going to be astronomical. You're probably going to spend $100,000 on a degree and get $40,000 in debt. And your future job titles might include, if you're lucky, public relations coordinator, about $45,000 to $65,000 a year, which is basically a professional email apologizer. A social media coordinator, it's about $40,000 to $60,000 a year, and you get paid to do what teenagers do for free. Or a marketing assistant, which is $41,000 to $61,000 a year, which is basically a PowerPoint presentation specialist if you get a job in communications. So yeah, not worth it. Number 6 on the list is psychology. And I know I always get a lot of angry comments for including psychology. I don't have any problem with psychologists. I think that, them helping people with their mental health is great, but I do know that the numbers don't really make sense, right? The numbers don't number. And I don't need to be a psychology genius to see that. There's 123,000 psychology jobs total nationwide, and there's 140,700 new graduates each year. And that's just the bachelor degree graduates. There's also 38,000 master's degree graduates and 7,000 doctoral degree graduates swooping in as well. And that doesn't count the people who already have psychology degrees. So again, the numbers don't number. There's way too many people graduating with psychology degrees and not enough jobs. And the worst thing is, the places where there are a lot of job openings are places like San Francisco, where the starting pay is not even going to be enough to pay for a room if you've got 7 roommates. roommates. And check out this post from a 23-year-old psych grad living the nightmare that I am talking about. 5 years after graduation, she's still working as a secretary at a construction company. And her dream of becoming a teen therapist is not even close to happening. And that's not an isolated case. That happens all the time. In fact, that's the rule, not the exception. And your career prospects here are going to be about 46 to 64,000 to become a case manager, which is like a professional problem inheritor. And yeah, these jobs can be actually incredibly stressful, especially if you're working with kids and you're seeing kids in really bad situations. That's extremely stressful. Or you could become an HR assistant. They make about $44,000 to $62,000 a year, and you're the person sending those remember to clean the break room emails. And by the way, you don't need to get a psychology degree to get into HR. Or you could become a behavioral health technician. They make about $40,000 to $55,000 a year, and you're going to get yelled at by patients for less than what some Uber drivers make. Now, the next one on the list is very similar, and that's sociology or anthropology. And you're not going to believe this, but only 6,000 combined jobs nationwide. 5,000 for sociology and 1,000 for anthropology. And there's still a lot of people graduating with these degrees. Not as much as psychology, but still a lot. So you literally have better odds of becoming a successful YouTuber or business owner, but the upside isn't nearly as high. And according to one Redditor, a $55,000 starting salary is actually quite high to expect for a sociology grad right out of college, and you're likely to start out a lot lower than that. And that's if you're one of the lucky ones that gets hired. Now, some of the jobs you might get into is a social services coordinator, $49,000 to $70,000 a year. And that's kind of like a professional grant writer, application writer. Then there's a research assistant, $50,000 to $73,000 a year, which by the way, is probably going to require a master's or even a doctorate. And this is basically you studying why you can't find a job. And then there's a community outreach coordinator. They make about $48,000 to $72,000 a year. And you get to make PowerPoints about making a difference instead of actually making a difference. So yeah, not worth it. Number 4 on the list is art history. Now, hold on to your berets. There are only 3,000 jobs nationwide here. That's it. That's the whole job market. Most of these jobs are in super expensive cities like New York City and LA, where your $35K or whatever it is starting salary means choosing between food and rent each month. And as one art history graduate lamented, the reality is there are literally 0 jobs out there in this field. The few positions that do exist are highly competitive, often requiring advanced degrees and having rich family members. And many art history majors end up taking on unpaid internships or low-paying roles just to get their foot in the door, as the original poster experienced. And the financial investment can be absolutely staggering. One commenter racked up over $200,000 in student loans for their art history degree. An absolute scam. Now, by the way, guys, there are better options out there for student loans. This is something I'm not going to get in a lot of detail in this video. I've made videos about this before, and I'll probably make them in the future. But you can check out College Avenue Student Loan, for instance, and they have a really good kind of quiz/calculator you can check out to see how low you can get when it comes to the APRs. And a lot of the time it's going to be much lower than a traditional student loan. So definitely check that out down in the description and the pinned comment below. It's a useful resource for the right type of person, and you should definitely check it out. But yeah, when I see these numbers, I mean, $200,000 for a freaking art history degree, it just gives me a headache. And honestly, when I make these videos, I literally get a headache. This isn't just me, being overly dramatic. Like I'm getting a headache right now just talking about this, partially because so many of my friends have suffered from this, and I have suffered from it as well. And it kind of just brings back the memories. So I'm not making fun of these people at all. You know, sometimes I get comments like that, like, oh, Shane, you're making fun of people. I'm not. I'm making fun of the system. I think the system is absolutely ridiculous and it's a total scam. But really, I'm just making this to educate people and hopefully save a few people out there. So if you're tired of getting career advice that keeps you broke, then smash that subscribe button right now, because I'm going to be making more videos like this. Now, back to the list. Next is going to be a liberal arts / general studies major. So get ready for the math here. Only 5,000 combined jobs nationwide. We're talking like 3,000 liberal arts related jobs and 2,000 general studies jobs. And by the way, when I say these jobs, like a lot of them you don't actually need the degrees for. It's just the types of jobs you generally tend to go into with the degree. So it's actually worse than 5,000 combined jobs because you're competing with people who got all kinds of different degrees, especially with these types of degrees. And even in the cheapest state, West Virginia, you need $39,000 just to survive. And these starting salaries, they'll have you living like a college student well into your 30s. And the crazy thing is these 2 degrees actually count for a staggering 2% of the country's total student loan debt. There's a ton of people that go into these. It's absolutely mind-blowing. There's 900 degrees and 2% of the student loan debt comes from these 2. So these graduates are saddled with disproportionately large shares of national student debt. So this is a recipe for long-term financial struggle. And the jobs that you could apply for: administrative assistant, which is a professional email forwarder that you absolutely don't need the degree for. Customer service rep, getting yelled at in multiple formats. You don't need any degree at all for that position. Program coordinator, coordinating programs nobody asked for. Again, you probably don't need a degree, or if you do need one, they don't care what the degree is. All right, number 2 is gender studies. And I know you're surprised. It's not number 1. There's a new number 1 on this year's list, believe it or not. Gender studies is literally a meme. That's how useless it is. And let's talk about numbers. Just 1,000 jobs in the entire country and dropping. And you could fit every available job in a medium-sized high school gym. And most of these positions are in cities where your starting salary qualifies you for food stamps. And according to comments, gender studies graduates typically end up in generalist roles like HR, recruiting, counseling, and nonprofit work, where you don't need a gender studies degree, and in many cases, you don't need any degree at all. And while they may leverage some transferable skills, the degree itself doesn't seem to open up a wide array of specialized, high-earning job prospects. In fact, one commenter sarcastically noted that gender studies majors can get any job that you can get without a gender studies degree. And this suggests the degree may not provide the type of in-demand expertise that can command top salaries. So if your goal is financial security and a lucrative career, a gender studies degree appears to be a risky proposition, and that's putting it lightly, with limited job opportunities and modest starting salaries. Even in major metropolitan areas, it's a degree that could keep you poor forever. And your career options are things like a nonprofit program coordinator, aka a professional grant beggar, which you don't need the degree for, a diversity and inclusion coordinator, which is basically a PowerPoint specialist, diversity edition, which again, you don't need a degree for, and a community outreach specialist, which is a Twitter argument professional, which again, you don't need a degree in. Anyways, number 1 on the list, guys, is pop culture studies. There are a grand total of 17 jobs available nationwide. Nope, that's not 17,000. It's not 1,700. It's 17. It's not missing any zeros. 17 jobs in the entire United States. You literally have a better chance of becoming an astronaut. And these jobs are all in places where a cup of coffee costs more than your hourly rate. Oh, but don't worry. Pop culture studies are undeniably fascinating. You'll get to learn all about how Sesame Street shaped our attitudes on diversity. And who could forget the Kardashians, those visionaries who truly redefined fame for an entire generation. But look, let's be real here. Understanding culture is great and all. It's interesting. I might even watch a documentary about it once in a while, or a YouTube video. But it's not exactly a skill that employers are clamoring for. They're too busy struggling to see the direct value of your degree. And a pop culture career path, like a content writer, for instance, you can make about $43,000 to $72,000 a year, but you're basically a professional BuzzFeed quiz creator where you're going to be helping people figure out what shade of Kylie Jenner's lipstick looks the best on them. And you don't need a degree at all in most cases, or if you do need a degree, it's definitely not this one, to get the job. Or there's the editorial assistant, $41,000 to $63,000 a year, and you're going to be writing things like 10 reasons why your degree was a mistake, if you have any editorial freedom anyways. Or you can become a media coordinator, making about $45,000 to $63,000 a year, which is basically like a TikTok trend analyzer. Oh wait, every stay-at-home mom out there pretty much does this, but they do it for free. So yeah. There you have it. 10 degrees that keep you poor forever. If this type of content helped you in your journey, someone like one of your friends or family might benefit from this, so go ahead and share it with them. This video was very painful to make. I know I might have hurt some feelings out there. I'm sure there's a lot of triggered comments in the comment section. But you know what hurts more? Spending the next 30 years of your life paying off a degree that's absolutely worthless. And the truth is, college itself isn't evil. Just the student loan system in the United States and just how the system is set up, like the education system in general, that's what's really evil. And while these graduates are fighting for entry-level positions, plumbers or people who get good college degrees are making 6 figures a year. And tech people who pay $50 to Coursera are landing great jobs as well. Now, speaking of all these, you can check out the original video that I did on this, the most useless degrees, by clicking right here.